You can't stop your wife from the behaviors that she has and the poor, hurtful, negative behavior pattern she has in the marriage. You have no control to change that in her. You only have control to change yourself. Hello, I'm Karen Seitz, and this is the Happy Wife School. This podcast is for married women to realize that we are responsible for our happiness, that no one and no thing can make us happy, and that our husbands are not the source of our unhappiness. In each episode, I red pill married women to know that we are the problem in our marriages to good men. For the good men, this podcast will wake you up to the realities of your wife's woman ways, to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to her emasculation in a constructive, caring way. Before we dive into today's episode, a couple reminders. My message is meant for common and usual marital issues. My podcast is not intended for abusive, violent, or compulsive behaviors in a marriage that are threatening or dangerous. Also, please take a second to visit my website and learn more about my courses, which offer solutions for married women and good men. You can find the link in the description below. With all that being said, let's get started. Today, we are talking about how to be happy in an unhappy marriage for good men. And the women listening might be saying, hey, what about us? Why can't this be how to be happy in an unhappy marriage for women? I'm going to talk about that at the end, so stay with me for that. The reason I want to talk about how to be happy in an unhappy marriage for good men, I saw a comment last week from a man, and he asked me, do you have advice for men who choose to stay with unhappy wives? How to parent, not to have shame, try to be a good husband, and not shut down? Then another gentleman commented underneath that, or how to stop her from gaslighting and deal with the fact that she will never make you feel loved. So that's the experience of good men in a relationship with a woman in our woman ways, which we all have on a spectrum, and how we emasculate and shame and make our husbands feel bad and wrong and manipulate and gaslight them. The reason I talk about these things is that was me. That was me in the beginning of my husband and I's relationship. It was me in relationships before him, because I'm a woman and I have all the traits that I talk about on the channel. And I've worked with women and men for 10 years now in what I teach. And that's where all of this comes from, is my experience and what I've been taught and mentored in to support good men and support women who want to overcome these challenges. But there are a lot of good men who will choose to stay in their marriages, and they are not married to women who are open-minded and who are going to overcome their unhappiness and work to outgrow and better themselves and evolve into the best version of themselves by working on and letting go of their woman ways. That's the reality. And so that's where this question from this man came from, is how do we do this? And how do we do this in a way where we can be content in our choice? Stay open in the marriage and not shut down, and still be a good husband, because that's the nature of a good man, is in spite of how his wife treats him in those woman ways, he still wants to, if it's not too late and he hasn't been pushed over the edge, he still wants to show up and wants to do his best. Where we're going to go is I'm going to break this down into 5 ways to be happy with an unhappy wife. But I want to set this up a little bit before I get into that. If you're a good man and it's clear to you in different ways, maybe you've tried sharing my videos, maybe your wife has been in therapy a long time or trying other things to work on herself, and it's become clear to you that she's going to be unhappy and she's not going to stop the woman ways and the emasculation and the controlling and the shaming and the gaslighting and the manipulation. And that becomes clear to you as a good man, and you are choosing to stay. You must choose to stay to grow and learn. I often teach, and it can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's the only way that you can choose to stay and be content with your choice to stay and make the best of it and still thrive as a good man. You must see and take on the perspective that your wife is your greatest teacher. Just like I teach to women that they are the problem in a relationship with a good man. If a woman works on herself and becomes happy in herself, feels good about herself, has a healthy relationship with herself, which was my path, then she begins to overcome those woman ways. Then a good man will be happy, she'll be happy, and they can have a happy marriage and a happy relationship. And that's how simple it can be. But I also teach good men that you have to see yourself in a constructive way so that you can overcome the emasculation, the gaslighting, the woman ways. You also have to see yourself as the problem from a very different angle than how I teach as women. We are the problem. But in order to overcome those tactics from your wife and choosing to stay so that you are not a victim to her woman ways, you want to use her as your greatest teacher to see what are the weaknesses in me, what are the holes and the cracks in my foundation that allows me to be weakened and gaslit and manipulated by my wife, because that's what you have control over. Part of the question that the men asked me in the comment that I shared is, how do you stop your wife from gaslighting you? You can't stop your wife from the behaviors that she has and the poor, hurtful, negative behavior pattern she has in the marriage. You have no control to change that in her. You only have control to change yourself. So while you can't stop your wife from her gaslighting and emasculating behaviors, a good man does have control over whether or not he is gaslit or emasculated. I'm going to say that again. While you don't have control to stop your wife from her gaslighting and emasculating behaviors, a good man does have control over whether he is gaslit and emasculated by those behaviors. How a good man does that is by seeing his wife as his greatest teachers of what is the weakness and limitation in me that she can weaken me and cause the effects that a good man goes through from the emasculation and the gaslighting and manipulation. That's a good man's journey to be able to grow and learn in his marriage and strengthen himself and get to know who he is and still feel good about who he is and have confidence and inner strength in spite of his wife being unhappy and not changing. The key, if you're a good man choosing to stay in an unhappy marriage with an unhappy woman, the goal is to not be a victim and feel trapped and beat down and weakened in that situation. It's to grow and learn and to make the best of it and be in control of your experience in spite of who your wife is as a woman and how she treats you. A good context to see this and let it in is you have to think of your wife as a woman. You have to think of your wife as a bully. She bullies you because she can. How bullies work, and this is what I had to see about myself in my marriage as a woman, that I was a bully. You have to know that bullies see the weaknesses that they can exploit, and they see that a person is able to be bullied. It's the same thing as when we were in school and we all knew kids that were bullies in school. And some of you listening might have been the bully in school. Bullies see the weaknesses they can exploit in a person and see that a person is able to be bullied. That's what a woman does in a marriage and relationship with a good man. And part of the reason that a woman marries a good man as opposed to a bad boy is because she knows that she can be in control and she can have the power and direct the relationship in the ways and direct her husband and be in control of him in the ways that she wants. The emasculation and the gaslighting are tactics of bullying. And when you teach your kids how to deal with a bully, you don't teach them to run away and just lay down and take it. The only way to stop being bullied is to stand up to the bully, which I'm going to teach how to stand up to the bullying of your wife and where we're going today. But for the good men choosing to stay in an unhappy marriage with an unhappy woman, it's a really helpful perspective in terms of using it as a path to grow and learn and strengthen yourself and take responsibility for your choice so you're not a victim, is recognizing you're dealing with a bully. And that the reason she is able to gaslight you, emasculate you, weaken you, manipulate you, is because you're able to be bullied. Good men are easily bullied because good men are easily manipulated, gaslit, and emasculated. And those tactics make a good man weak in himself, which allows him to continue to be bullied by his wife. The contrast of that would be an alpha man. An alpha man becomes an alpha because in general, alphas are bullies by nature. That's how they become the alpha. And a good man is not an alpha. The reason that an alpha man can stand up to a woman in her woman ways and not be intimidated or stand down and be bullied by her is they can anticipate what she's going to do in her woman ways because they can see it and spot it because they have it in themselves as an alpha. Good men do not have the wiring. It's really important in the framework and definition of what I speak about in a good man. A good man does not have the wiring, and it is not in his nature to manipulate, overpower, shame, and gaslight. That's why a good man is so susceptible to his wife's woman ways and how we treat a good man, because he can't see it and he can't anticipate it because it's not in his wiring and in his nature. And a good man has to take responsibility that in order to not be emasculated and gaslit and manipulated, you have to learn what those tactics look like and what they feel like in your marriage so that you can see the reality of what's happening, learn to anticipate what's coming and see it so that you can navigate it and no longer give your power away to it. That's how a good man sees himself as a problem in a constructive way so that he's empowered to be the solution. That's can't take responsibility. So that's the framework of if you are a good man choosing to stay in an unhappy marriage with an unhappy woman, you have to stay to grow and learn and use your wife as your greatest teacher. With that being said, where I'd like to go next is 5 ways to be happy with an unhappy wife. What I mean in this of how to be happy with an unhappy wife, what I mean by happy in that for a good man in the circumstance is there is an acceptance of your choice to stay so that you are not in turmoil and you can learn and grow and be content with your choice. That's what this list of 5 ways to be happy with an unhappy wife sets you up to be able to have a deep acceptance of your choice so you can be content in your choice and still be happy within yourself, have a sense of self, be confident, and know how to constructively navigate the relationship with your wife, knowing who she is and how she shows up as a woman who is unhappy in herself, because that's the issue and the problem. So number one, for a good man, of how to be happy with an unhappy wife, number one, you have to know your values. Meaning, when you choose to stay to grow and learn, you have to be deeply grounded and anchored into what is your value you have that you are choosing to stay. You have to know in your heart what the value is for you in your life. What's important to you. That's what I mean by value. What's important to you in life, that it is your choice to stay in an unhappy marriage with an unhappy woman. It might be that it's your faith and your relationship with God and what you strongly believe in, that by your faith, choosing to stay in your marriage is the right thing for you to do. It could also be that your value is being a dad and being there for your kids, and that your value is you believe it's better to stay and do your best to navigate and manage the marriage for the kids' sake, that your value is you believe that's the healthiest outcome for your kids, that being a dad and keeping your family together is your value. So you have to know from your heart what that value is that is guiding your choice to stay in spite of the marriage being unhappy and your wife being unhappy. Only you can know that. You can't get someone else's advice on what you should do or what that value is for you. It's something you have to know within yourself and spend time reflecting on. The reason that if you're choosing to stay, you have to be anchored and know from your heart what your value is that's guiding that choice, is that it won't work. You can't be in an acceptance and content in your choice to stay if you're staying because you're afraid to go out on your own, or you're afraid to move forward in life and start over. It's not going to work if you're staying because you don't want to go through or are afraid of going through the pain of a divorce. It doesn't work if you're staying because you don't want to go through the cost of the divorce and the consequences that come with that. If you choose to stay for those reasons of what you're trying to avoid or what you're afraid of, that is where you will be a victim and feel trapped and become a shell of a man. So in order for you, again, to be happy, meaning in an acceptance and able to thrive and do your best and continue to have a life for yourself and a sense of self, you have to make the choice from a place of knowing your value and being convicted in that value and understanding it for yourself. Once you make the choice to stay based on a value of what's most important to you and your priorities in life, once you make that decision, you can't talk about it with anyone and talk it through, because everyone's going to input their opinion, their advice, what they think you're doing is wrong or right, or you should do this or that. Instead, once you've made that decision based on your value, if you're talking about it with others, they will cause you to doubt and second guess your choice, and you won't be sure and anchored in it so that you can navigate your relationship and marriage from a healthy place for yourself. That's why you have to be convicted in your value and convicted in your choice based on what you've decided and what you know to be true and right for you. The second way to be happy with an unhappy wife, now that you've made the decision based on a value, You must be and can't take responsibility. What does that mean? Once you make the choice, you have to know you made the choice, that no one is making you stay. That's why you can't do it from a place, you can't stay from a place of fear and of what you think might happen that you don't want to face or you want to avoid. That's where you will be in camp victim, having given your power away and feeling trapped and that you had no choice in the matter. And that's where you will be stuck and you can't be happy and content and accepting your choice from being in camp victim. That only happens in camp take responsibility. So you've made the choice. No one's making you stay. If you stay in camp victim feeling like it's happened to you and you didn't have a choice in it, it will suck everything out of you. And again, you'll be left a shell of a man. Camp take responsibility means I know it is always my choice and that I'm choosing this. And being grounded in camp take responsibility in a challenging situation, like an unhappy marriage with an unhappy woman, you're striving to do your best for you because it makes you feel good about who you are and your character and integrity as a good man. And then you can make the best of the situation and navigate it from a healthy place. That can only happen from camp take responsibility. So number 3, before I get into number 3, I miswrote my title today. This is 3 ways to be happy with an unhappy wife. Originally, I was going to do 5, but I stuck with 3 because the third one is a little more in depth. So we're only going to 3. I apologize for that. I just caught that. So this is the third way to be happy with an unhappy wife. You have to overcome and know how to overcome being bullied by your wife. So what I would like to do in this section is teach how do you overcome being bullied by your wife? What are the steps? So the first way to overcome being bullied by your wife as a good man, this is critical. You have to know that you are a good man. What the emasculation and the gaslighting and the manipulation does to a good man is it causes him to question and lose sight of and not know if he's a good man or not. I have talked with more good men than not who, because of how they've been treated in the marriage by their wife and her woman ways, and it's so clear they're good men, they're gentle natured, they're hardworking, they're trying to do whatever they know to do to make things better. They always, this is so fascinating to me, I don't think it will ever not be fascinating when I talk with a good man or I get an email or an application to talk about the course, he will share all the ways that his wife treats him poorly and what he doesn't know to do about in terms of what's going on in the marriage. And it could be things like, we haven't had sex in 5 years or a length of time, or she's constantly attacking me. I don't know what to do. I'm quiet and just take it. And then they will always add something like, but she's a really compassionate and caring person. That's the nature of a good man, that in spite of how he's being treated and how his wife is showing up, he still sees the goodness in her or the potential. Blows my mind. As women, we're lucky to be married to good men in their nature to still see and want to see the good things or still want to try to make the marriage work in spite of the awful ways that we can show up. So you have to be grounded in knowing yourself as a good man. It's the crack in your foundation of questioning that in yourself that allows your wife to emasculate you and gaslight you, to question that and to think that you're the problem in the marriage and the relationship. So you have to spend some time looking at, how do you show up with your kids? How do you show up at work? How do you show up with strangers? What's your intention in your marriage? What's the nature of who you know yourself to be? And really be connected to knowing yourself as a good man. Your wife can't bully you when you know you're a good person and you know you're a good man because you can hear the things she's telling you about who you are. And when you're grounded in knowing who you are and knowing you're a good man, you can know that's not me. Doesn't mean a good man's perfect or doesn't make mistakes. But his intention isn't to be hurtful, and his intention isn't what we can make a good man feel in our accusations of them as women. When you know you're a good man, you won't buy into the awful things your wife tries to make you believe about yourself. So that tactic and her bullying won't work. That's the first way to overcome being bullied by your wife. The second step to overcome being bullied by your wife is you have to know the reality of the relationship, and you have to know the reality of your wife as a woman. That you can still, because it's your nature as a good man, still love and adore her in spite of the crazy making and emasculation and her poor behaviors and unwillingness to change. That's just the nature of a good man. In order to not be bullied and sucked into the gaslighting and manipulation and emasculation, you have to know the truth of your wife and her woman ways. Like I said, you can still love her and see the good things, but you also have to be in the reality of the nature of her and her woman ways to emasculate, gaslight, and manipulate you. When you don't see the reality of what's happening, that's when you doubt your own perception of reality and get sucked into it and believe that you are the problem and that there's somehow something you need to do or stop doing that's going to make her happy and change the relationship for the better, because that's not going to happen. There's nothing you're going to do or stop doing that's going to make her happy or stop these behaviors in her. So you have to know the reality. This is who she is. She's not willing to change. These are the ways that she can show up and treat me and can make me feel really bad about myself. That's the reality. And when you know that, then that's where you can be grounded and again, not be bullied. The third step to overcome being bullied by your wife is you have to know the woman way of play. You have to assume, not in a pessimistic way, not in a doomsday way, but you have to assume and know that your wife, if she's unhappy and unwilling to work on herself and change, you have to assume she's always in a woman way that I talk about on the channel. You have to know she's always in a woman way and assume that so that you can learn to see it and anticipate it and not get blindsided by it. A good word to encapsulate all the woman ways is what we're talking about today is bullying. You have to know your wife is a bully and her intentions and her woman ways. Here's your wife's intentions as a woman in her woman ways. She wants to overpower you. She wants to tear you down and pick you apart. She wants to intimidate you to get her way in what she wants. And she wants you weak and unable to stand up to her. And she wants to be in control at all times. Here's your wife's intentions in her woman ways as a bully. I'm going to say it one more time. She wants to overpower you. She wants to tear you down and pick you apart. She wants to intimidate you to get her way and what she wants. She wants you weak and unable to stand up to her. And she wants to be in control at all times. While it feels very personal and it is an attack on you, it's not a reflection of you and what you're doing or not doing. It's a reflection of your wife and how she feels about herself internally. For the women listening who are open-minded and hearing my message and wanting to look at these things, you need to know that as yourself. I had to know that as myself, that that's how I operated in my marriage with my husband, who is a good man, because I knew I could exploit his weaknesses as a good man so I could be in control. It comes from our fear of being out of control and our deeply unhealthy relationship with ourselves and how we feel about ourselves that we don't want to look at, don't want to know, don't know what to do with. And so we take it out on our husbands. So men, this is the intention of what's happening. So when you're up against your wife and her being a bully in her woman ways, you need to know this is what's at play. So again, you can stay grounded in the reality and anticipate what's happening and know it and navigate it in a way to where you don't get sucked into it. The last step in overcoming being bullied by your wife, stop trying to make your wife happy and put that energy into making yourself happy. Stop trying to make your wife happy and putting that energy there, and instead put the energy into yourself to make yourself happy. What that means is reconnecting with the things you used to like to do and enjoy doing before you weren't allowed by your wife to do those things anymore, and she took over and took control. Reconnect with your hobbies. Reconnect with the things you enjoy doing. Go to the gym. Have guy time with your guy friends. Watch your football game. Watch your sports. Play a video game. You have to do the things that allow you to feel good about yourself and allow you to create a life so that you have a sense of fulfillment and meaning in yourself while navigating an unhappy marriage with an unhappy woman. And for a good man who has been emasculated and made to feel wrong and bad, it can feel very terrifying to stop putting that energy into trying to make your wife happy and put that energy into yourself and doing things for yourself. Because of what's the retaliation going to be from my wife? And you don't want to have to face that because of how crushing and devastating it is. That's the intimidation at play from your wife being a bully. So here's the perspective you want to take. You're already in the doghouse. She's already unhappy. She's already upset. So you're not going to be more in the doghouse. She's not going to be angrier. She's just going to be angry and upset. It won't make her happy if you don't do these things. She's still going to be unhappy. So be okay. Learn to be, a phrase that I use from time to time in teaching is learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable of your wife being upset with you. It's not about you. She's unhappy and she's taking it out on you. So she's going to be unhappy. So you might as well take that energy that you're trying to put into her to make her happy, which isn't going to work, and put it into yourself and do the things you enjoy, regardless of if that makes her upset or not, because she's already upset. Let her be unhappy because she's unhappy and it's not your fault. You didn't make her unhappy. You have to start rethinking that if you're doing things to try to make your wife happy and she's just unhappy, it's like what I say, she's an empty bucket with holes. It's an abyss. It's an empty abyss. And when you throw your energy into that, it drains you. It sucks the life out of you. And that's where you're most susceptible and vulnerable to how she can crush you in those woman ways. When you put that energy into yourself and you accept she's going to be upset and angry anyway, so I might as well do this for myself so I can be my best. It rebuilds your sense of self. It makes you feel good about yourself. You regain your confidence. And that's what gives you the tenacity to navigate the marriage in a constructive way. So again, you can be in acceptance and content in your choice to stay. Stop putting your energy in the empty bucket with holes. Those are the 3 ways to be happy in an unhappy marriage with an unhappy wife. Number 1, have to know your value of why you are choosing to stay that comes from a constructive place that you are convicted in. Number 2, now that you've made that decision from a place of knowing your value, you have to be in camp take responsibility. You have to know I'm making this choice. No one's making me, so that you aren't a victim and don't feel trapped and like you have no options or choices. And number 3, you have to overcome being bullied by your wife. And that's what we went into in that section, is how to overcome being bullied by your wife. Now, I said at the beginning that I would address the question some women might have of Why can't this be how to be happy in an unhappy marriage for women? Remember, this channel, when I'm speaking to women and reaching women who are open-minded and want to know these things and want to change, this channel and my message is only for women married to good men. It's not for any other type of relationship or dynamics. So here's the thing. The reason I don't have a video for women on how to be happy in an unhappy marriage is because if you're married to a good man and you work on yourself to be happy, meaning having a healthy relationship with yourself and feeling good about who you are, and it's not too late in the marriage and it hasn't gone too far in your woman ways, you will have a happy marriage. If you are a woman married to a good man and you do the work on yourself to be happy in yourself and you overcome and outgrow your woman ways and how you treat your husband to shame him and make him feel bad and wrong, you will have a happy marriage. That's why I have the sign that I keep up. Happy women have happy marriages. Because all a good man wants is for you to be happy. And when you are, you can have what I call the dance together. Because a good man is thoughtful, caring, wants a healthy relationship, actually wants a relationship with his wife, wants things to be good, wants to navigate the relationship and life together, wants her to be happy. And when we're happy in ourselves, a good man will still do all the wonderful things we thought we needed him to do for us to be happy, but then we can actually appreciate them because we're not needing them, because we're happy in ourselves. So then we can appreciate them. That's how simple it is. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. If you haven't, go check me out on YouTube, Rumble, and X. You can find the links in the description below to connect with me there. For those women listening who know you are the problem and want a path forward to take responsibility and change your own inner turmoil and unhappiness, I have a course for women called the Happiness Program, which is the solution to the unhealthy relationship you have with yourself and the issues and challenges you have in your life and your marriage. You can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. And for the good men listening who want a solution to take back the power you've unknowingly given away to your wife, I have a course for you too called the Marriage Rescue Course for Good Men Only that teaches you how to rebuild your strength and confidence as a good man so that you can navigate the relationship with your wife in a healthy, constructive way. Again, you can find the link in the description below to apply for a free consultation with me. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.